We're going to look back and be like, I cannot believe that the average person was driving a car. Until now, until Waymo, there has not been a private travel experience where you are completely by yourself in a pod, not having to do any work. So you said AMH is the best indicator of egg quantity. Do we know it's egg quantity, or do we know it's quantity of follicles that are in your ovaries every month?
Even if you have 4 follicles and you can release an egg, as long as that egg can be fertilized, you're fine. And at the end of the day, even if you have a low follicle amount, you only need 1 egg to have a baby.
Very soon, we will not be able to discern AI generated video from real video, because the nature of that is actually a 2-pronged system where you have a generator and a discriminator, and they're fighting against each other.
It will be really irritating if someone's like making up fake images being like, hi, it's Kayla. I just ate a box of your Oreos last night. I totally fell off my longevity protocol. And then what if people like believe that?
My biggest qualm with AGI is that I don't know why we are spending so much money and talent and effort on trying to build this pipe dream thing to replace humans when we could just use AI now in its best form for every single industry.
Women on average live 5 to 7 years longer than men, but we know that about 25% more of our time is spent in poor health. So,
well, announcement. I have a...
This is episode 5, so welcome back to the podcast, everyone.
Welcome back.
So today we thought we wanted to talk a little bit about like secure attachment types.
Yes, totally kind of a random, but important.
Yes, but very important, yes. So we're also going to talk about some of the longevity breakthroughs. We're going to talk a little bit about some AI breakthroughs, updates. I've used started my Sora, but I haven't used it yet. So I'm excited to hear what you've done with it so far.
Not much, but okay.
It's kind of crazy though. Like I've seen...
When you say started your Sora, you mean like you got an account?
Yes.
Do you make an avatar of yourself yet?
No.
Mine was bad. I think I need to follow their protocol for like doing it the right way, but it was not.
Yeah, well, you don't want a bad one and then a bunch of people using it.
I haven't released it to the public yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I ended up, after the last podcast, I ended up actually doing it.
Yeah.
And doing the avatar thing. And yes, they let you choose whether you would like to release your avatar to the public. And I have not yet done that.
But I guess the question, do we even want to release it to the public? Like, it's going to be kind of irritating if, you know, someone that just doesn't like you, like obviously I live like a very, I don't know, like polarizing lifestyle, right? So it will be really irritating if someone's like making up fake images being like, hi, it's Kayla. I just ate a box of your Oreos last night. I totally fell off my longevity protocol. And then what if people like believe that?
It's funny because I've seen these horrific videos of Sam Altman on X just doing like God knows bad things, saying crazy things. And someone said, this is great for Sam because if there may be videos of him doing sketchy things and now he can just say it was Sora because people have really been going to town with these AI generated videos of Sam. So, but I have seen other creators like my friend Alex Botez. She's a chess player champion. She released her likeness to the public and people have been using it. I haven't seen what the outcomes have been, but I was talking to someone about it and I was like, should I release mine? And he was like, people will just make like porn of you or something. I don't know what Sora's guidelines are around that, but yeah.
What about do you know, is there any, I wonder if there's any regulations around like brands using your content, right? So as you know, I'm like really, and you are too, you know, we get so much inbound in terms of brands wanting to work with us. I'm really cautious of working with brands. I'm very selective because I care about my audience and I care about where they're investing their money, and so do you. So I'm curious if those brands, let's say they're turned away or they don't have the budgets or whatever it may be.
They just like use you instead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how horrible would that be?
I don't know. I mean, that's objectively bad. You can, write cease and desist letters. Influencers and creators have been dealing with this for a while, but now it's just more easily accessible, right? Like,
and more realistic, right? Because a lot of times you can spot like, okay, that's obviously fake.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for a while. Very soon, we will not be able to discern AI generated video from real video.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of how these models work. They're called generative adversarial networks, GANs. They're the ones that make these fake videos that seem real. The nature of that is actually a two-pronged system where you have a generator and a discriminator, and they're fighting against each other, where the generator tries to trick the discriminator. So it could say, I'm generating a video of Kayla. And so it generates this video. And then the discriminator, which is a model in and of itself, says, okay, that was a video of Kayla. And if they're wrong and it wasn't a video of Kayla, then the discriminator gets better. It improves its discernment, right? It's better at distinguishing video of Kayla versus not video of Kayla. And then the generator gets better at generating a video of Kayla, right? And so these two models are improving constantly. And it's this cat and mouse race. And so any kind of feature that you see now that helps you distinguish a real video from an AI generated video. It used to be the hands. Now I see it usually as facial movement and mouth movement.
Yeah.
That will be gone. So we need to move it towards a system where there's trust, and where, I mean, that could be with blockchain, or that could be with, you know, really just posting any kind of video you see, you make sure that it's posted by the user that the video is about. But then we get towards, you know, political videos, right? What if there's a video of someone doing something really great? Or, I mean, it doesn't just necessarily have to be political. It could be any kind of flattering video that is posted by someone. How do you know it's real? You know, how do you, even now in the health system, or in kind of the health space, people are claiming numbers, claiming, you know, biometric numbers or physical feats.
Yeah.
Without video, people are saying, well, how do we even know it's real? Well, eventually the video will also be meaningless. So we're kind of moving to this post-trust era, but in my opinion, it has its benefits, because I think media has always twisted reality to sell attention.
Yeah.
And it has often gotten facts wrong. There's this concept called Bellman amnesia, or it's a phenomenon where you'll be reading a newspaper about something you know about, and you're like, this is riddled with inaccuracies. This is completely incorrect. What the heck? Like, did the writer know anything about this topic?
Yeah.
And then you'll move to the next article and you'll assume everything is right. And that's called Bellman amnesia. You have amnesia as you move on to the next article. And what this kind of represents is that there are so many inaccuracies in media, even when they claim to be truthful, or any kind of like story about someone we know is often riddled with half-truths, or, you know, the bare or like facts stripped of all context, stripped of all meat, to create the skeleton that is technically truthful, but paints a picture to the reader of something that is completely not the truth. It's highly deceptive. And so I think it's actually about time that we move towards this era where people are really distrustful of what they read online, because we've been trying to teach people that for a long time with misinfo, you know?
Yeah.
Like seeing misinformation on your feeds, like misinformation story news, like that's been going on for years. And we've been trying to educate people, don't trust everything you read online. And now people are really going to learn you can't trust everything online.
But it's also sad, because then you're going to feel like you just can't trust anything, and people aren't going to have appropriate resources to go to, right, for factual information. I mean, I suppose unless, you know, you kind of develop a relationship with like a specific creator and you know that you can trust them or something. But I mean, I'm just thinking through, like, it's already such a convoluted like space, health, longevity. It's like one day eggs are amazing for you, the next day they're going to kill you. Like, it's, you know, you have influencers that are spouting that, you know, you have to drink celery juice every morning and that's going to be the one thing that like changes your health forever. Or, you know, there's just so much already that's really confusing in the space. So I feel like this is just going to add another layer onto that for people.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know the way the world is going to look. I can't know. And, you know, most leaders of these major AI companies will tell you the same thing. They have no idea what the world is going to look like in 5 years, in 10 years. But what we can do is just consciously try to implement the technology every day in a way that is thoughtful and beneficial to our workflows. And I'm really excited about that. And yeah, I think we should do a day where you ask me AI questions. And I want to talk about, you know, like AI replacing jobs and what that's going to look like. And I see it, my philosophy is kind of, and I keep coming back to this, is that I don't see it like replacing jobs in the sense that like people will be out of work long term. I think entire processes, so like for example, doing research or researching your product and going through, you know, your customer interactions or going through your Slack messages and looking at what engineering features need to be implemented or debugged or whatever, like the research that goes into choosing what feature to work on in the next quarter, in the next sprint perhaps. That whole process of research will now be done for you. And so that becomes a step in your bigger process of then moving on to the next thing. And so it's like massive time savings, and these kind of often tedious processes are now going to be covered by AI, and then we will be able to take bigger leaps. And another thing I think is really interesting is that I recently saw Brené Brown speak at Workday Rising. And Workday is a company that does HR and finance and has a really trusted kind of enterprise around that. I was partnering with them or collabing with them. And Brené was saying at this speech that we as humans have become less human because we have learned how to adapt to the needs of the machine. Like we have kind of rewired our brains to do these like tedious technical tasks for the machine. But now the machine can do those things, and then we can go back to being human and, you know, collaborating deeply with people and dreaming and ideating and, you know, she even said like being vulnerable. And kind of side note, but something she said is that courage requires vulnerability.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting because I forget exactly like the logic she had behind it, but like when you are courageous, there is a chance that you'll be rejected or that it won't go the way that you want. And so that inherently is vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so anyway, she's amazing. I think Brené Brown is awesome. She's a researcher and professor on vulnerability and bravery and courage, etc. You may have heard that before. I actually mentioned her in a podcast a few episodes ago when I was talking about, at the end, I was like, I have a vulnerability hangover. That's a Brené Brown term. Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Okay, on a longevity update front, and by the way, I just got back from London, so that is fun. I was speaking at, it's called Health, HELF Summit in London, which was really fun. Got to see a bunch of friends. So yeah, it's really exciting that, you know, longevity and this like health optimization is just very global at this point. So loved to see that.
I know.
Yeah, and I checked out a few longevity like health clinics too. So if you're ever visiting London, I think there's one called HVN. You know, we're more advanced here for sure in the US.
Really?
Of what we have and what we offer. Everything there's a little bit more spa-like.
Okay.
So the design will be really beautiful and very tranquil, which is obviously good for stress reduction and longevity, but we had a lot more advanced therapies, I think, at least from the places that I went to. But I was excited that the hotel did have organic, and so did another hotel. So at least they're on
organic sheets.
Or no, not organic. I wish organic sheets. That's so rare.
Oh.
Although there are a few places that do, but super rare. No organic food.
Oh,
so
okay.
at least I could, you know, optimize my diet while I was there. So that was great.
Organic sheets.
No, actually, I chose the location of our honeymoon because the bed was organic. So.
Yeah, that's why I thought of that.
Yeah.
Because that's so you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, literally. So we did our honeymoon at Post Ranch Inn, which is in California, Big Sur, and they have organic beds, which is game changer.
Love that. Organic bed and organic sheets.
Yep, and organic food, and it's amazing. So honestly, we need to like be pushing this more because places just should be offering this. Like you shouldn't be staying at a nice hotel and have to like suffer through the food, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an interesting update for this week's longevity update. And I think next episode we do AI breakdown with you. And then we go back to doing, if you guys are interested, please let us know, you know, a breakdown of the mechanisms of aging. So the 14 hallmarks of aging, and then how you might be able to start addressing those hallmarks of aging with, you know, foundational longevity protocols and advanced longevity protocols.
Cool.
Yeah. The first comprehensive review of NIH's intervention testing program, so it's a new review of 20 years of the ITP, this is in mice, shows that among all of the tested compounds, because we're always looking for new compounds to fight aging, right, or improve longevity, rapamycin is still the leader in one of the strongest and most reliable effects on lifespan and health span. So there was some, you know, kind of drama around. There was a major influencer, we won't name them, but They said that they stopped doing rapamycin because it was actually aging them. But
what is rapamycin?
So rapamycin, it's a drug. It's a pharmaceutical intervention. It was originally developed to be an immunosuppressant. So a lot of individuals with like an organ transplant would,
Yeah. Okay.
So an organ transplant, they would be taking rapamycin to reduce the risk of the organ being rejected. But now it's been used in the longevity space in much smaller doses to extend longevity. There's actually a really interesting, one of the big things I need to work on, by the way, you do a great job of this, is talking slower.
I do a good job of that.
You do a great job of this.
God, thank you.
Yeah. I always want to jam as like much information and data as humanly possible into one conversation or talk or whatever it is. There were people that came up to me after the talk and they had like pages and pages of notes because I had hit the objective of giving a lot of helpful information and actionable takeaways.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I need to do that with the idea that I also need to.
Yeah. And then people can always speed you up.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to get to a place where people are going to need to speed me up, but I would be glad just to turn it down a notch. But this other study with rapamycin for females that are listening to this is exciting. So I believe, and this is a general consensus in the female scientific community, that if we can delay menopause, which menopause typically starts around age 50, we can obviously improve health outcomes for women because women on average live 5 to 7 years longer than men. But we know that about 25% more of our time is spent in poor health. And that really has a massive uptick once we hit menopause because of the protective effects of estrogen. And you would ask me before, and I didn't have a great answer then. Well, men don't have as much estrogen, right? So why are those protective effects in females more strong with the estrogen? I think the best, I did some research into it, and I think the best way I can describe this is because we are used to having a much higher baseline of estrogen, so we get those protective effects, whereas men have other protective mechanisms built in because they simply don't have that amount from birth, right? Is for us, we're moving along, cruising along with these high levels of estrogen, and then it's just a drop off. So that's at the time where we see the risk of all-cause mortality increase. But with this Vibrant study, it's not yet peer-reviewed, but it's showing about a 5-year delay in menopause with this rapamycin protocol that they're doing. So
wow,
that's super exciting.
So the immunosuppressant is able to delay menopause?
Potentially, yeah. We're still waiting on the final results because it's ongoing.
So menopause is an immune response, kind of?
I think it's
being ill causes menopause early, which would kind of make sense.
It can, yes, definitely. Like my mom, for example, went into menopause slightly early. She went into menopause at 47, which is about 5 years earlier than, she should have, because it's usually like 50 to 52. And lifestyle can impact that, right?
Yeah.
Because you're speeding up your biological aging. Yeah. And we also now know that mitochondria have a lot to do with the ovarian aging process and kind of the decline. So she unfortunately, smoked for a good portion of her life, didn't manage stress, didn't do a lot of these longevity protocols. She still looks amazing.
She does.
She's she really does. And so I'm like, well, at least I hope I have that gene there. But yeah, so it's exciting. And the mechanism is, so I think you know this, but every month when a woman ovulates, we actually release, we can think of our egg stores, our reserves, as like a vault. So we have all these eggs in the vault when we're born. So it's kind of crazy because the eggs that we have are technically like inside of our mothers at one point.
Crazy.
So wild.
So the mothers have the little grandbabies in them?
Literally, yes.
Or half.
Yeah. And the eggs for them. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So every month we have a massive amount of eggs that are recruited. It's about a 3-month process that these eggs are starting to mature, but only one egg is selected to actually be released and then can be fertilized. So it's called atresia. And we are just losing so many eggs, kind of the thought is unnecessarily. So the rapamycin seems to be reducing the number of eggs that are actually coming up to be developed. So we have less waste. So that's...
Okay, this brings up a lot of thoughts for me. Okay, so I egg froze years ago.
Mm-hmm. I egg froze recently. Well,
I know, I was with you.
I know.
We were new besties at the time.
I know.
Wow, it's coming up on a year. Crazy. Anyway, so yes, what you were saying we're born with all the eggs that we'll have. They die off every month. But then also there are some that are in your ovaries that there are lots of follicles that become eggs.
Yes.
And every month your body chooses one follicle to mature into an egg.
Right.
When you egg freeze, all of the follicles in your ovaries start to grow. You take this hormone so that they all start to mature into an egg.
Yeah.
And then you have your extraction surgery when most of them are at a healthy size, because you want to be smart about when you do it, because some can become too big and then they don't work, and then some are just not big enough because these follicles start to grow and mature, and some are not mature enough and some are too mature, and so you want this like sweet spot of when you extract. So I was wondering then, if you have fewer follicles every month in your ovaries, does that mean you're being more efficient? Because they typically say, like, if you go into the doctor and they say like, oh, you have, like, I remember when I was 27, I went in and I had like 11, like one of my ovaries like wouldn't really have follicles in them. It was like 10 and then like, 2 or something in the other side. Yeah. And I remember freaking out because they were like, oh, you should have 20. And then the next month it was like one had 10 and the other had 2.
Yeah.
And then later I went and looked again last year, and I have now 20. But at the time I had fewer, and I kind of was like, oh, I've become a lot healthier or whatever. But at the time, I didn't necessarily feel unhealthy. And I remember talking to a girlfriend of mine. She had the same situation, and she and I are like physically very similar. We even look kind of similar. She was my big in my sorority. And she was like, yeah, I also had that many, but then when we fertilized them, like so many got fertilized.
Yeah.
And so it's like they were like fewer, but they were kind of maybe higher quality or something. And so then I kind of think, these metrics, and then a good girlfriend of mine, I mean, the reason I went in and froze them at 27, one was because I thought I would be leaving my job that covered it when I was at Meta. I knew I was kind of like winding down my time there. And so I wanted to use the perk. But then also my girlfriend like sat me down. She was 31. She just got married, and she was like, we were gonna egg freeze, and then I went in and they told me I don't have enough follicles to even freeze. And she was like, I have 4, and they said, sorry, we're not gonna do it. It's just not worth it. Like, we probably won't get them.
Yeah.
And she was freaking out. They literally said like, you're infertile. And she was freaking out. Let me finish the story. It's a happy ending. She was freaking out. She and her husband decided to try naturally. They got pregnant on the first month.
Love that.
So she was not infertile.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I wonder, right, is like, are these metrics of these, it sounds like what rapamycin does is it's, as you said, reducing the number of follicles being produced every month. And so it like kind of preserves them more.
Yeah.
So maybe it is a good thing to have fewer. I don't know if this number of how many follicles you have in your ovaries every month is actually a good indicator of health. Maybe your body is just preserving and being more thoughtful about what it uses,
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of a can of worms. I've obviously done so many interviews with like really advanced OBGYNs, and they have differing of opinions. The problem is that number one, you're right. So all that really matters is the egg quality. So even if you have 4 follicles, and you can release an egg, as long as that egg can be fertilized, you're fine.
Right.
But then there's the flip side, right? So when I did an interview with a restorative reproductive medicine doctor, which it's the first time I've heard this term and I'm obsessed with it, she doesn't like this value of AMH, which is anti-Müllerian.
What did she say about it? I also have felt like it's not the right one, but I obviously don't know anything. It's just a vibes.
Yeah, well, it's not perfect because, again, even if you have, let's say you're in your late 20s or early 20s and you have a low AMH, that's not at all indicative that you're infertile. It means that you have
Let's just say what AMH is. Really
fast. AMH is stands for anti-Müllerian hormone, and it's the best measurement that we have right now to look at the egg quantity, right? So there is general guidelines on where your AMH should be based on age. And then there's also instances within women with PCOS that have a much higher AMH. We're talking about like 10 or more because they have so many follicles being recruited. So there's a Goldilocks zone again. You don't want it to be too low ideally, and you don't want it to be too high. But I think it's really important that we all understand that just because if you got a low AMH, it doesn't mean that you can't have a baby. In no world does it mean that. But then I think about the flip side, and as a planner and as, you know, someone that is 34 now, I got my first AMH test at, I think, 28, because I wanted to have an idea, you know, because what if it would have came back, you know, super low, like let's say it was like 0.4 or 0.5 or something. I would have then froze my eggs right away.
But can I just, okay, so I want to intervene here. So you said AMH is the best indicator of egg quantity.
Quantity, yes.
Do we know it's egg quantity, or do we know it's quantity of follicles that are in your ovaries every month that are being recruited into your ovaries that could then be chosen to be an egg? Because egg, like we're talking about total eggs in your body remaining.
Yes.
Amount recruited every month to potentially be chosen is a different thing. And my intuitive sense is that AMH is, I'm curious what this doctor said, the woman who actually knows what the heck she's talking about. But my intuitive sense, and I'm wondering if it aligns with what she said, is that it's like more of an indicator of how many you're recruiting every month, which actually maybe it's better if it's lower, right? Because these people with PCOS, yes, they go and egg freeze and they have like 30 eggs.
Yeah.
How many of them are actually of the quality that would turn into an embryo? We don't, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it certainly
I've heard it can be much lower.
Can be lower, yeah. I mean, so it's a measurement essentially, it is of the recruitment, because I believe not in the recruitment, but it's the best proxy, because again, we don't want that AMH to be too high. We don't want it to be too low. But let's say you're 25, you know, and you do get a very low AMH. I think it could be it's information I would want to know. It doesn't mean everybody wants to know this, but let's say it's, you know, you have a 0.5 or a 0.4 AMH and you're 25 years old, and you're not even thinking about kids until you're like 33, right? Like in your brain, you're like, you're kind of like me, right? Like, I want to build my career first. I want to do all these things, and then I'll get married. I think it's just helpful to know so that you don't end up in a position that if you intend on having kids in a few years, no big deal. Like, who cares even? Probably. But if you are waiting, I just think it's helpful because that might change your family planning strategy.
I'm also curious, like they kind of say, I feel like there's not so much data around female health.
There's not.
And so people say, they assume that AMH only goes down.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
You can increase it with different lifestyle interventions. I don't think you can make a massive shift, but you can increase it.
Well, I've seen mine change and increase over time. It was lower when I had 11. Now it's higher.
Yeah,
when I had
sense.
Yeah,
you have more follicles.
Yeah. Exactly. And so but then you're saying that this rapamycin helps because it reduces the amount of follicles being recruited every month, which thus would indicate that it's reducing AMH, which thus implies that actually reducing AMH would help with longevity.
So if let's say you're on rapamycin, that would kind of interfere with the accuracy of AMH at that point, right? Because you would be purposefully.
But it's not. You're purposely lowering your AMH, which thus helps your longevity. Which, I don't know.
But think about it this way, though. Okay, so if you were you are not on rapamycin and you just did an AMH test.
Yeah.
It would give you an idea of how many eggs that you have in that vault, right? You don't want to be super young and have a very low amount of eggs if you're waiting until you get older.
No, but AMH, you said, doesn't show you how many it has in the vault. We think it does, but it's more how many are being recruited every month.
Right, but those are also tightly linked based on what we know now. If there's more, you're going to recruit more, right?
Maybe, because it doesn't strictly go down.
AMH.
It's not monotonically decreasing.
Yeah, for most people, unless they make pretty significant life changes. I mean, from 20 to 30 to 40, you see
I mean, how many people are even getting their AMH tested in their early 20s?
Yeah, probably not many.
You know, I think there's going to be a lot more data. What did the actual scientists say about AMH? Why doesn't she like AMH?
She doesn't like AMH for the reason that I kind of presented in the beginning. So it can cause unnecessary stress, right? So if you get a number that you're not happy with, you really stress about that. And at the end of the day, even if you have a low follicle amount, you only need one egg to have a baby. So she thinks it just induces a lot of like unnecessary stress, and because it's not a perfect marker.
Yeah. Does she think kind of similarly to me in the sense that it's not a perfect marker of your fertility? In the sense that
it's definitely not a perfect marker for fertility. It's not even, we don't have markers for fertility because that would mean that we could test the egg quality, which we can't. And I think it's such an important piece of this conversation. And sorry to all the men that are listening to this right now.
Well, it's important.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we don't have anything right now that's that helpful. So, I mean, well, you know, I'm just obsessed with data. So of course I want to know what my AMH is all the time. So But yeah, I think if you guys are interested, I did this amazing podcast with Dr. Naomi Whitaker. She talks a lot about this in depth, and she just, as a restorative, reproductive medicine doctor, which is, again, I'm so obsessed with that because it gives so much hope, right?
Yeah.
Restorative reproductive medicine. I love that. She just says there's so many interventions that we can make, to get back on track and to optimize our female cycles and biology, which obviously I'm a huge fan of as well. So,
well, speaking of this though,
yeah.
do you want to say
I
something?
was just going to say there's some interesting research going on with HBOT and the hyperbaric chamber and improving AMH levels. So,
improving AMH levels.
Yeah.
Interesting. Or increasing AMH levels.
Yes.
We don't know if it means improving. Sorry, I'm just on. Anyway.
Yes.
Age reversal research. So in my AI news this week, the top story that I wrote about was research on senescence-resistant stem cells showed promise in reversing signs of aging in monkeys.
Oh, yes.
So
yes. I thought we already
senescence,
talked about this, but we didn't.
Yeah. So senescence is
like
let me look at
rogue. Want me to explain it?
Yeah, sure. Go for it, girl.
So senescent cells are like kind of rogue cells. So, we have these cellular turnovers. I said in a previous podcast.
They're rogue.
Yeah, they're dysfunctional. They're rogue. They can actually emit like pro-inflammatory cytokines. So remember, I said in the last couple episodes ago, we make 300 million new cells every 4 seconds. Okay. So senescent cells are cells that are like, they also call them zombie cells. So they're kind of like lingering around, even though they were supposed to have died off and been replaced.
What I see here is that it says senescence as a concept is the gradual deterioration of functional characteristics manifesting as permanent cell growth arrest at the cellular level or increased death rates at the whole organism level. So what they're saying is that the cell loses its ability to reproduce or grow, I guess, at least permanent cell growth arrest. So it loses its functional characteristic, i.e. its ability to grow. And it says cell senescence prevents damaged cells from replicating, often due to, it stops them from replicating, often due to DNA damage or telomere shortening, and is a hallmark of aging that contributes to age-related diseases when senescent cells accumulate in tissues. So they're these like old dead cells. They're not dead, but they can't grow.
Like zombie cells.
Yes, what you said, exactly. And so it tends to result in increased death rates at the whole organism level. So it's like aging.
Yeah, they accumulate. So you can actually test your senescent cell levels as well. I have done that. So, and after, I also do, it's called senolytic therapy, or, you can take a senolytic to help clear out some of those. Things like quercetin can potentially help to clear out some of those senescent cells. But as we age, our bodies get, and this is part of the 14 hallmarks of aging, we get worse at clearing out those senescent cells, right? We're better at it when we're younger. So
love this. And apparently the research into these cells has showed promising results or signs of reversing aging in monkeys.
I love that. Was there more info on this? Because I should know more about that. But
here I'm reading from ABC6onyourside.com. Scientists have demonstrated, this is in Beijing, scientists have demonstrated that genetically engineered human stem cells can slow the signs of aging in monkeys, offering hope for future therapies targeting age-related decline in humans. In a 44-week study, researchers infused cynomolgus monkeys with senescence-resistant mesenchymal progenitor cells, or SRCs.
SRCs, okay, so not mesenchymal. It's a different strain of mesenchymal, is that what?
I guess so. It says mesenchymal progenitor cells, or SRCs. Okay, senescence-resistant cells. I guess they cut out the mesenchymal progenitor.
They took like a mesenchymal stem cell, which is quite common, and then they made them these anti-senescent. Okay.
Yeah, and they enhanced it with a longevity gene known as FOXO3.
FOXO3, yeah.
So the cells they enhanced with this longevity gene.
There's also a peptide for anyone listening that is FOXO3.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, the treatment reduced markers of cellular aging, chronic inflammation, and tissue degeneration without major side effects. The monkeys that received the therapy showed improvements in memory tasks, brain structure, bone health, and reproductive function. Analyses also found rejuvenation of blood and multiple organs, with biological aging clocks suggesting a reduction in tissue age by several years.
Nice.
Wow.
Amazing. So essentially what I'm gathering is they took a specialized form of stem cell that they genetically engineered injected it into the monkeys and then saw these benefits.
The study, I want to ask you about this. The study published in Cell highlights exosomes, tiny vesicles released by the transplanted cells, as key drivers of the rejuvenating effects. So these exosomes are key drivers of the rejuvenating effects.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about exosomes? I hear people use it on their face.
Yeah.
And like, where do they come from?
Yeah.
I hear it's kind of sketchy.
Well, actually, I would say, and you and I have different levels of risk tolerance. So stem cells, oftentimes, and there's a whole variety. There's autologous stem cells. There's allogenic stem cells. One is from your own body, which I've banked my own stem cells, and the other one is from someone else. So I've not yet veered. I have offers to go do other people's stem cells, right? For me, I'm holding off because I don't want that genetic material. When you think about a stem cell, you have genetic material of another individual being implanted into you. There's a risk there of obviously rejection, a variety of things, in my opinion. So exosomes is like the extracellular material around the stem cell. So it's loaded with growth factors and healing proteins, but it doesn't have that genetic material. So for me, I think that they're much lower risk.
Yeah.
Exosomes are something that I have done from an IV standpoint, and I've also done them through like microneedling exosomes. So
can't you just put it in a cream, or do you need it? Microneedling gets it deep.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the times with these creams that people are promoting, and I'm wading through all of this, I'm not yet an expert on skin longevity, but I want to be. A lot of times exciting ingredients, let's say you're putting NAD into a product, right? We know that NAD levels decline as we age. We also know that NAD levels in the skin actually decline the fastest. So it seems like a great idea, right? Let's put NAD into a skin cream and it'll be great. But you have to think about the molecular weight and the size, because a lot of times these products can't get into the skin.
Right.
So I think that if you're going to, exosomes are expensive. So if you're going to invest in, like, let's say a vial of exosomes, and we don't have to get into it, but I think there's a lot of scams out there.
Also, where do they come from? Like, whose stem cells are they? Are they animals? Is it people?
No, goodness gracious, animals. So typically they're from the umbilical cord of, you can get them from several places, but for the most part, umbilical cords that would be tossed out. But that lab that is gathering them for you, they work with the mother. They interview, if you're working with a good lab, they interview the mother.
Can get money for their umbilical cords.
Most likely, yeah. And a lot of, unfortunately, like a lot of mothers just toss them out anyway.
Gotcha.
But they try to find healthy donors, and then they're thinking that it's the most youthful exosome, but no genetic material. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for telling me about this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will not get exosome cream. I know people who use it.
Yeah, I think it's not as efficacious. I also did this other cool thing with a company called Acorns. So they just took our hair follicles. You should do this sometime. They're going to be in Austin. You should do it.
Okay.
So they banked my like basically hair stem cells, and they were able to replicate them in the lab, and they created these little secretomes for me. So it's based on my own DNA, my own genetic material, and then I can use that in a facial cream.
Secretomes.
Yeah, secretomes. So it's kind of like your own stem cell based product, but it's unique to you.
Oh my God, cute.
I know.
I would totally do that.
So they can make you like shampoos. They can make you, I think this is like skincare of the future.
Yeah.
And then you could also use them, for recovery or microneedling or whatever you want. But it's genetically compatible, which I'm a lot more comfortable with than doing something that is not my genetics and not genetically compatible.
Oh my God, I love that. That is so cool.
Yes.
Let's see, any other AI things that I want to cover? I mean, there's a few topics. Waymo's robotaxis have driven 96 million miles with 91% fewer serious injury accidents than human drivers.
Wow.
91%. So, okay, a couple things. Waymo is the best experience you'll ever have.
The best.
You're right.
I was blown away.
I tell everyone this, and they're skeptical, and then they go in it, and it's amazing. And actually, I can't take credit for this. Noor Siddiqui did it to me first. She's the CEO of Orchid. She's a friend of mine, and she was like, Harper, once you try a Waymo, you're never going to want to go back to normal rideshare. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I did Waymo, and honestly, pro tip, you've got to sit in the front seat because it's comfortable. I'm like very, I don't like feeling boxed in. This is like a thing with me. And I feel like I don't like having my seat like upright and my headrest sticking my head forward. You sit in the front, full control of the seat. You can control the music. Right now, it's, they're preset playlists, but they're quite fun. Good music throwbacks. And there's no smell. There's no interaction with anyone else. You can talk on the phone. You can nap. You can do whatever. And, my housemate in Venice, she was telling me, she was like, if you thought of this, it was really interesting. She's like, there is nothing like that. There's no private travel experience until now, until Waymo. There has not been a private travel experience where you are completely by yourself in a pod, not having to do any work. Like Waymo, I mean, Tesla, some people would say that with Tesla, you still have to operate the vehicle. Like you still have to be on. Waymo, you are completely off. And it's completely by yourself, and it's this little pod, and I just freaking love it. And apparently 91% fewer serious injury accidents. So I was saying this, and I've said this for a while, we're going to look back and be like, I cannot believe that just the average person was driving a car. Like I cannot believe that we had like non-professional drivers driving cars. Like it's crazy that we have just everyone driving these massive death vehicles. You know, like it's insane to me. And so, and I think we'll really see that in retrospect.
Yeah. And there are no, as you already mentioned, but no fragrance, no little trees, which absolutely kill me and is the reason why I really can't take rideshare, because
they're the worst. Or cigarette smell, or like whatever. It's like
or like cologne. I mean, I get a headache right away. And then I have to spend the entire drive educating them on why this little tree is killing them and they shouldn't throw it out
like,
immediately.
Please get this chick out of my car.
I know.
But you and I both, we don't wear perfume.
Yeah.
We don't, like all the soaps and stuff we use are very natural.
Yeah. Avoiding endocrine disruptors.
Yes, exactly. Like anything that smells strong is probably an endocrine disruptor, including essential oils. Like I was talking to some girls today, and we had gone to Pilates, and they like massage your head with peppermint.
Oh, nice.
And it's so nice. It feels so good. But they're like, oh, it's fine. It's natural. It's, essential oil. And I was like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it's fine. Like lavender is apparently an endocrine disruptor. Like it increases estrogen. I think peppermint may do something similar. So dang.
I'm not an expert. I don't really use essential oils much. I haven't gone down like a deep dive on that, but interesting.
Yeah, fun. And then, also another thing is the Earth BioGenome Project is on a mission to sequence the genome of every known plant, animal, and fungus on the planet by 2035. Nice. So there's a lot that could come from this like sequencing, and just to have it in this database, there's a lot that we can do from that. Maybe I'll make a video on that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
But yeah, just lots of like bio work in the AI sphere.
Yeah.
And okay, I'll just quickly touch on Thinking Machines, which is the ex-CTO of OpenAI's company. Her name is Mira Murati, and she has this company called Thinking Machines. It was pretty groundbreaking in the amount of money that it raised early on, and now it's launched its first product, Tinker, which is an easy way for developers to fine-tune open source models without having to do like all the code and things like that. And that's interesting to me. So I actually got my start in teaching AI online by making these fine-tuning coding guides, because no one knew how to do it. And so in order to fine-tune a model, you actually kind of do need experience. You have to understand how these machine learning models work, how the architecture works, like how the layers are put together, how to change, the weights of the model. And all of that happens through code. And so when I made these guides, I had like 50 followers on X when I made these guides. And yet my first post got 50,000 views. And then soon I was getting hundreds of thousands of views. And I was helping, thousands of people in the tech world fine-tune models for their use case. And there are a lot of benefits to fine-tuning models, and particularly open source models. So open source models are models where all of the code is available online, that you could download it. I mean, there's some nuance with open source versus open weights, what have you, but basically you can have the model on your own machines. You can fine-tune the model with your own data, so you don't even have to send the data out to another company. You can make the model work for your specific use case with your own data, keep that all secure, run the model securely on your own machines, and it's a lot less expensive because you only have to pay for the price of running compute, basically. So like energy costs, basically. Yeah. And so you save an enormous amount of money. You can have these specialized models for yourself. You keep your data secure. There's so many benefits to open source models. And so fine-tuning them was a challenge because it involved, code and awareness of machine learning. So I made these guides. And now Mira Murati's company, Tinker, is taking away the code in the guides and making it easy for developers to just kind of use essentially one line of code to get these specialized models for their use cases, which is really exciting. I'll do some more work on it. But something I really like about Mira Murati's company Thinking Machines, is her focus is on using AI now across every industry to optimize every industry.
Yeah.
Her focus is how can we take AI where it is now and use it to help our world?
Yeah.
Let's apply AI today because it's very powerful today.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of companies like OpenAI and, we're on this race towards AGI.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's throw limitless amounts of money and the best talent and whatever into making AGI, which is, for those who don't know, artificial general intelligence, and kind of the definition that has been settled upon now in the kind of AI space is that it has all of the cognitive capabilities of a human. So a human may not know how to do something, but it can quickly learn. You show them, they learn quickly. They're able to navigate a space independently. AI currently does not have that. You have to train it specifically for every task and put a lot of money and time and effort into training for different tasks, and it can't generalize well.
Yeah.
AGI would be able to generalize well. Large language models themselves, ChatGPT, etc., at their core, they're word generators. They're not going to be AGI. There's a lot of misinfo around AGI. A word generator itself cannot be AGI. Word generators don't have side effects. They can't interact with the world. They can't, they're just generating words.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's even just searching the web and pulling a source, that's an agentic capability. You have to augment the model. You have to write code for the model to recognize when it should search the web and how to do it. And there's so much overhead for every little task that you train an agent to do. There's so much overhead.
Yeah.
And essentially AGI would be an agent in infinite capabilities, right? That's very hard. People like Yann LeCun, who runs research at Meta, has said we are so far from that. We need an entirely new architecture. So there's a lot of misinfo around AGI. A lot of kind of tech leaders are like, oh, we're at AGI, it's imminent, AGI has been achieved, but it's probably not. And I have humility in that it's been a while since I've done research it's been a couple of years since I left Meta and was doing AI stuff and research there. And I don't know about what is happening now. I'm not on the inside, so I have to be humble and say, maybe they've created some, model that I'm not aware of. But I was recently talking to someone on the inside, and they were like, no, we are still very far. It's all hype.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I really like Tinker and Thinking Machines, Mira Murati's company, the ex-CTO of OpenAI, because it's applying AI now. And my biggest qualm with AGI is that I don't know why we are spending so much money and talent and effort on trying to build this pipe dream thing to replace humans.
Yeah.
When we could just use AI now in its best form for every single industry. Yeah. AI is an optimizer. AI can help improve every single area in the world. I was on a podcast. I think I talked about this a few podcasts ago. I was in a podcast and I was talking about AI and how it can help with the environment. And someone commented, I'm an environmental scientist. AI can't help.
Yeah.
And I'm like, girl, you're wrong. Because AI is an optimizer. It's so much more than large language models. It is looking at numbers and data and finding solutions.
Yeah.
Finding novel solutions that we as humans cannot. Yes, it can help for environmental science. Because I'm a numbers person. And people who understand AI know it's all math. And math is the language of the universe. And so once we can harness that for every industry, we can really lead towards I don't want to say utopia, but we could really get there. And so what's important is just getting AI in the hands of everyone and having everyone understand how to use it, which is what Tinker does. It allows people who are not coders to fine-tune models for their own use cases and apply AI to their own use cases. So I'm very excited about it. I think I'll make a video on this. Yay. It's big strides.
I love that. Yeah, I want to talk about a hard pivot just per usual.
All right, enough of that. Moving on to attachment styles. Well, this came up because I was just thinking about announcement. I have a boyfriend.
Yay!
Anyway, it came up because I was talking to Kayla, and I'm now in a healthy, wonderful relationship with someone, and it's amazing. There's more that we can talk about on this. I think one of them is we talked about Kayla's, going on one date and then marrying her man. And I think once I was in this relationship with this guy, he was like the second date I went on. We got set up by a friend, and I remember being like, oh, like he's perfect. But it's only my second date with like second other person date. And like, do I really just stop now? Like, what are the odds of this actually being the person? And so I think two things I want to touch on is one is like when God answers your prayers, to recognize it. Because I had been praying for my person to come along.
Yeah.
And
we'd been praying
for that, right? And I'd been like in this other thing that was like not ending completely, and it was dragging me along. And we'd been praying for that. And when this appeared, one funny thing that I want to point out that a girlfriend of mine was just saying today, because she brought it up first, she was like, oh, you have to always like close the other thing first before the new thing comes along. It's like a law of the universe. It's like, I don't know why. And I said in response to that, it was funny because I had literally just deleted the photos of me and my ex off of my private Instagram. It was like Thursday night I deleted them, like finally me admitting like it's over, you know, and like telling my community like it's over, which I had been hesitating to do because it was like uncertain for so long. That was Thursday, and then Saturday morning I met my now boyfriend. So it's true, you kind of like, it like happened so fast, and it, again, because it happened so fast, I was questioning it, and I was like, maybe I should date other people, like he's perfect, but like, you know. And I realized I'd been praying for this, and I have to just like trust God and see the gift and like lean into it. And it reminded me, as I was talking to my girlfriend today, she's like, you know what, this reminds me of this, you know, there's this parable of this, like of the drowning man. And I was like, what? She was like, there's this drowning man, and he's like, God's going to save me. God's going to save me. And, you know, a boat comes by and is like, hey, I can save you. Get on my boat. And he's like, no, I'm good. Like, God's going to save me.
Yeah.
And then a motorboat comes by, and he's like, hey, get on my boat. And he's like, nah, it's cool. Like, God's going to save me. And then a helicopter comes by, says, get in my helicopter. He says, no, like, God's going to save me. And then the guy dies, and he gets to heaven, and he's like, God, what the heck? Like, I thought you were going to save me. And God is like, I sent a boat and a motorboat and a helicopter. What else did you expect?
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like recognizing the gifts that come in. And I think, so then the other piece here is that this relationship has felt really different to me. It's like objectively, he has all the things that I wanted and like prayed for in a partner. But it's felt so much more peaceful.
Yeah.
And the only way I think I've been able to recognize that kind of like, and embrace that kind of love. I think I grew up with, I think my attachment style was not secure. And I think I'm not used to that kind of like peaceful love. And then I think becoming friends with you, Kayla, you taught me secure love. And I've heard that it can happen through like a therapist or through whatever. And some people say you want to be in a relationship and then you guys can work together. But I think I literally healed my attachment style through being friends with you. Because our friendship and relationship is so secure, so you're so dependable. And so what's like trustworthy, loyal, honest, reliable.
Yeah.
And it's so peaceful all the time. And I just love it. And I don't think I've ever really had that with a close friend. Like it's always been like just a little bit of a different feeling. You know, it's like they're not always reliable or they're not always honest or like, and there's just like not peaceful, totally peaceful energy. And you are just that, like a rock. And I knew that I was looking for that kind of energy with a man. And so you like healed that for me. And I think that in the past, if I weren't your friend, I think it'd be harder for me to like recognize like, oh, that's the energy that I'm looking for. Like, this is the right thing for me. Just like it feels so peaceful. And on the first date, I was like, look, I'm looking for something loyal, honest, reliable. Like those are my non-negotiables. I was like, I just want this to be boring in the best way. And he was like, I kept saying that, and he was like, okay, well, not boring. He's like, well, like, I don't like boring, but like a peaceful is good, you know?
Yeah.
And no, it's true, but it's like so peaceful. I never have to worry about anything like what he's thinking or whatever. And he's like so effusively affectionate and honest about his feelings, and I feel so secure, and I'm just excited about like where things are going, and I can really focus on my work. It's crazy how much brain space being in something not secure takes up in your brain. And I don't think, like, I can't imagine being in that for life. Like I could, like, it just takes up so much brain space, and now I have so much more space to like do other things, and then like connecting is so wonderful, like when I'm done with work. You know,
I mean, because you have a steady foundation now, which is what I have really prayed for you and with you for. And I just find it amazing too. So, you know, there was a day where we really sat down and like wrote pen to paper what you should be looking for, you know, in a man. And I think as humans and individuals, we often want to think through like, oh, we want them to be tall and handsome and successful. And yes, all of those things too. But those in a life partner, they have to go under or, you know, slightly aside of the moral values that will sustain a very happy relationship, marriage, etc., for the rest of your life, and someone that, you know, your kids will be raised by, right? So we landed on, and I told you that what I was looking for is loyalty, honesty, and reliability. And you have to keep these sheets, you know, whether you're a man or a woman and you're thinking about a partner, I think grading them is important. And that might sound a little bit callous, but it's like, okay, you're going to potentially spend the rest of your life. Like, I was dating for marriage. You know, I think you're in a place where you're dating intentionally at this point, and you always have been, but, you know, we don't have control over the outcome. But I think that having your non-negotiables, like if someone can't be loyal, honest, and reliable for you, how will that ever work?
Totally.
You'll never have peace.
Never.
You'll never be able to have full trust in that individual. And to me, that's just like required for a healthy, flourishing relationship. And especially with people that are busy as you and I are, right? Like, we are building something that we're super excited about that takes up a lot of time. I don't have extra bandwidth to fight with someone or wonder what they're doing or question their motives. And I would also encourage, if you are that person, so you and I both came from a bit of a broken home, right? And I used to definitely be a person that sought out more complicated people, right? I can have this like, what is it, like hero complex or something where I'm like, oh, I want to fix this person. I want to help fix this person.
Or like they're interesting.
Yeah, they're like, you know, just all over.
They've got depth.
Right, yeah. And it's like, okay, no, I don't need to fix that person. We need someone stable.
Well, he has depth and has been through hard things too. Although I think growing up, I don't know. I won't go into his personal life. But yeah, sorry, continue.
It's a stable foundation. That's how everything of greatness is built. You know, like in the Bible, they say, you know, you can either build your foundation on rock or you can build your foundation on sand. And when you're a new Christian, you need to really dive deep into the word and help to educate yourself to bring you out of that infancy as a Christian so that you have a very solid rock foundation to stand on. You can answer questions when challenged. You can go to the word. You can have this relationship with Jesus. We want the foundation of rock, not the foundation of sand.
Totally.
All areas of our life.
And it's been like a rock foundation since like the first day we met. It was like very intentional. He was dating very intentionally, really is excited to be a dad and a husband, which is important. Like some people, you know, I used to think it was great. Like, oh, you know, my boyfriend never wanted to do that. And now he does. Like, that's so great. And it's like, no, actually, because that doesn't last forever. Yeah. Like if you're kind of pushing someone against their nature, it is against their nature. And he's just like, has always wanted that and is finally like ready for it. And then, but it's like waiting, you know, to meet the right person. And then we just click very well. So
I think there's a big difference between a man that wants a wife and a man that wants to be a husband.
Yes.
So I think when you find a man that wants to be a husband and especially like lead through the lens of being like Christ-centered, I mean, I've talked about this before, but it's just like the stats around reading the Bible and going to church together in terms of positive outcomes of relationships. I don't know them off the top of my head, but they're wild.
Yeah.
They're so much better than the standard, you know, divorce or, you know, continued marriage rates in the US. So,
and I think another thing I'll say about the like peace in the relationship thing is I think a lot of people expect like that passion and intensity to mean that they love someone, but a lot of times, and like maybe you do, but like maybe you really do love that person, but for the long haul, having that peace is such a foundational form of love that grows so strong that like feeds into your life and helps you become this like ray of love and light. And that is like the more enduring path to go on. Yeah, and the love just grows over time and it's so firm. And I think I've heard this from many adults and many happy couples is that life, and like who've been married for a long time, life brings you a lot of hard challenges.
Yeah.
And life can be really hard. And what you want is in your marriage to have it be really peaceful and safe and be your like secure place where you can trust that person and they can be your true partner.
Yeah.
Like they're truly your partner. Like you guys are number one to each other.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful when you have that. And when you don't, it's just like life is so much harder.
Yeah.
And then you have it like nowhere. And so yeah, having that security at home and then having the craziness happen outside at work or whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of the ideal situation.
Yeah, I agree. And also it's like this, it's an upward climb all the time versus very toxic relationships. Like a lot of times people will fight to see if the other person cares, right? Like, so it's like up and then it's crashing down and then it's crashing up and then it's a disaster.
Totally.
And you know what I had to learn, because I thought my communication was pretty good when I got married, but I realized that my husband's was far better. I mean, it's almost just like an unreachable level. But, you know, I remember one of our first fights, and he didn't immediately respond with like coming back to me to try to like resolve it.
Yes.
And in that moment, I thought, wow, you know, I guess he doesn't really care that I'm upset. But
Yeah.
it was actually so far from that. Number one, he had to take a break because my husband will never raise his voice to me. He will never speak down to me. But there are times that he needs to separate, to collect his thoughts, because he is a human being and he's also a man with high testosterone. So he has to take a break. And the other part of that is that in his mind, you know, we're married. There was never any question of coming back to get me, right? It's like, of course, we're together forever. This is not, but I was used to more of those toxic patterns of, okay, you fight and then you make up.
Yes.
You know, and
Totally.
that is not healthy.
Totally. Yeah. I used to think, I remember like having the experience in a relationship that I was in where like when things were chill and we were just sitting together, I would have this feeling of like, oh, something's wrong. Like he doesn't love me because it was just chill. So it actually had to like relearn that peace is actually the thing that you're looking for, not this like chaotic intensities.
Well, I mean, in general, as your best friend, I'm so excited to see you in this place. And it's just really like what I have prayed for and wanted for you. And I am so excited that I got to be along for the ride and the transition. And I can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you. I know it's exciting.
So exciting. I know.
So that's all for now, folks.
Yeah, that's it. Well, make sure to leave us any questions. If you have any comments, feel free to like leave us feedback too. And if you guys are listening on Spotify or Apple, we would really appreciate a review. It means so much to us. It helps get the podcast out to additional viewers, which we're really excited to do. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we would also, love a comment, like, subscribe.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like just commenting or rating the podcast and commenting. Oh my gosh, we would appreciate it so much.
Yes.
That'd be great. So yeah, if you like it, and give us feedback.
Yeah. Yeah.
If there's things you like more or less, or things you want us to do more or less of, we want to hear from you. So we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Have a great week.
Yay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.